is the WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee here, and this is episode 64 of the WrestleBread Podcast. So I missed an entire week. I think I said last week, the last episode, of how crazy my schedule has been. The Friday, what was that? The 7th, I had to work a 12-hour shift, and then the next day work 6 hours on the Saturday, had off Sunday, and then Monday had to work a 10 to 11-hour shift, and I was just completely exhausted the next day. So I really didn't get a chance to not only record an episode, but really watch a lot of wrestling the week before last. I did catch some wrestling last week to go over, but there's been a lot of news that's been popping off this past week that I really wanted to talk about. First things first is glad to hear that Sonya Deville is okay. The news that came out over the weekend that there was a fan that had broke into her house, and luckily she had an alarm that her and it was a guest that was there. I don't know if it was a girlfriend or not. They were able to get out of the house without any type of incident. And the guy, he had on him a knife, duct tape, I think zip ties, and mace spray. He actually was waiting outside of her house for a little bit and waited until she went to sleep before he went inside. He has a Twitter account. I'm not going to give out his name because I don't want him to have any type of publicity, but he has a Twitter account. And on his Twitter, he had retweeted everything and anything that had to do with Sonya Deville. So, of course, this is, the very crazy side of wrestling fans that unfortunately exists. People who live in these fantasy worlds and don't know anything about reality. I know people may say that it may be like some type of mental issue or something like that, but dude went there with knife, mace, zip ties, and duct tape. So he had the materials to do either kidnapping or Lord knows who else. And it's just crazy of the things that people go through, not just women, but men as well. But I see it sometimes on Twitter, not people that I follow, but, when something is trending and you click on the hashtag and you start to see, like, for example, Naomi or something like that, or if it's like Mandy Rose, you click on the trending topic and you start to see like some of those crazy people that sit there and say some weird stuff. And it's difficult enough to have a stalker, but once that person decides to take it to the next level, that's when it gets crazy. I had dealt with a bit of a stalking. It was someone who was seeing me in person, but also stalked me online, it's very fearful, and you fear for your life. And so I can only imagine what Sonya Deville was feeling. I mean, she didn't know that this guy was going to do something like this. Probably didn't even know he really exists, unless he was one of those people that constantly DMs her or something like that. Because going off the tweets, he never really tweeted anything like crazy to her, but we don't know if he was all up in her DMs, sending her weird messages. I believe there may have been a story a couple of years ago of a woman who, like, in her head was went to some wrestler's house because in her head she was like married to him or something like that. I forgot the wrestler's name, but I'm like very sure that was a story. And so going to what I went through. So I was in college. I normally was taking online classes because I was working and I'm a mom, but I decided to take a class in person because it was statistics. And I took statistics online and I failed it because, statistics really shouldn't be taken online. So I decided to do it in person. And, statistics, you're in a computer class, things like that. So I would, there was there was times during the class where you have the option to like, you do your homework and stuff like that. And then once you're done your homework, you kind of have a bit of extra time. So what I would do from time to time is hop on Facebook, things like that. And so I have a Yahoo email that I had used for school. It was my throwaway email. Whenever I have to sign up for like a trial or like anything that I know will give me like spammy type emails or like a bunch of marketing emails, I'll just use this Yahoo email. And so I used that Yahoo email for school, and I didn't know this person was at school at first. That's the scary part about it. So I get this random email one day that said, "Damn, your legs are thick." And I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I said, who is this? And then they said something else about my appearance. And I'm like, who is this? So I'm freaking out because I'm working. I go to school. So I'm like pretty much all over most of the city. So I don't know if this is someone who, like, my immediate thought was how this person gets my email. Obviously, they're describing me, so they see me in person. So every time I went out, I would look around and stuff like that. And my number one thing was to figure out who is this person and how are they seeing me. And so they were sitting there and they would say things, and they knew I had kids because they mentioned something very disgusting about that. They mentioned, like, do I want another kid or something like that? And something like, then he started to go weird. Said that I had pretty feet or something like that. And I was trying to figure out how this person got my email. So then it hit me. I'm like, maybe they go to the school. So I sent something through the class, because that's the statistic class was the only class that I took on campus. So I sent something through the campus email to the class, like something dumb, like, oh, did anybody get any notes from some type of assignment, something stupid. And then the dumbass responded to me in the email. And I'm like, okay, this dude is in my class. So I thought it was someone who sits next to me, because he said something about my moles or something like that. And my moles was primarily on the left side of my face. So I'm like, okay, it's this like weird, creepy guy who sits next to me. But then he like sometimes sit in front of me from time to time. And like, I just got weirded out, and I decided to go to the police about it because the emails just wouldn't stop. I went to the police. The woman there that was taking down the notes and everything, God bless her, she did like some type of Googling or something like that. Looked up social media and was able to find a photo of the person. And it was like a side profile, but I looked and I realized that it was the asshole who sits behind me and would watch my computer screen. So he saw me on Facebook and things like that, and that's how he found out I had kids. So now I'm weirded out. So I filed a police report. They told me to contact the school, and I contacted the school. The school's like, of course, they don't want nothing to be blown up. My mistake was contacting the school and trying to be a nice person to say like, hey, this is what's happening. This is on your campus. And it's basically like, oh, basically like, there wasn't anything physical or any type of incident. We'll keep an eye out, just do the police report and stuff like that. And it was just crazy. It was crazy. It was scary. Luckily, it was towards the end of the semester, so I really didn't have to deal with that anymore. And I rarely took classes on campus after that. I probably made like 1 or 2 classes after that happened, and I decided to stay online, which was my mistake because I'm not really good with taking classes online. But going back to the point, just having some type of stalker or something like that, it really fucks up your mindset. It fucks up your life because, you have your schedule, you have the way the way you walk to work, the way you walk to school, the way you do everything in life. And when you have someone who you know is watching you, it really messes you up because you don't know if someone, are they watching me now? Have they been following me? How do they know this? How do they know that? So the fact that, you know, and I know this is with a lot of people in and inside and outside wrestling, but the fact that someone had took it that far enough to show up to find out, first of all, where you live and is able to get close enough to your house to watch you and wait till you go to sleep and then try to enter the home. I'm just really, really, really glad that Sonya Deville is okay, because that situation could really turn for a worse. And people were sitting there saying, you know, you see what he looks like, and they was like, you know, oh, Sonya could kick his ass. Yeah, true. But dude had a gun. He had mace spray. I think he was anticipating a possibly being attacked. That's probably why he brought the mace spray. And it's like, who knows what could have happened. So I'm very glad that Sonya Deville is okay and that, you know, nothing happened to her. Another piece of news that has been released over the weekend. I don't know how true this is, but according to, I think it was Dave Meltzer, he stated that the majority of WWE superstars have reached out to AEW at some point. Very few have not talked to AEW, which includes Roman Reigns. I find that kind of hard to believe that pretty much everyone had contacted the company. I can see if your contract is, you know, is about to expire, you're trying to try out different options or even use AEW for, you know, a negotiation bit to try to get more on your contract. But I really don't believe that every single person in WWE has contacted AEW. The last thing I want AEW to turn into is the 2020 version of WCW, where they're just picking up everyone from WWE. They already have a lot of people that's coming from WWE already, and their roster is already swollen. And what I don't want AEW to turn into that WCW did was they built on WWE stars instead of building up on their own stars. Because we got Jericho, we got Jon Moxley. The exception, of course, is being the Elite. But the things that are suffering is the women's division. They don't really have, I guess because there's no WWE women over there, just somebody to, their own stars to build up. Because once these WWE people leave, what's left of AEW? I don't think it's true that everyone in WWE has contacted AEW. I believe that there's a big portion of them that may have contacted them, you know, with contracts being up, or with everything that's going on with the way that WWE has handled COVID. Another thing, I don't know when this was announced, but I found out recently that Payback is actually 1 week after SummerSlam, which is crazy. I don't know why they decided to have it 1 week after SummerSlam. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that they're moving to a new stadium in Florida, the Amway Center, and they're going to be starting a virtual fan experience. Now, I didn't get exact details of how to apply for it. There is some type of website that you have to go through, and a lot of people are very concerned about the fact that, you know, wrestling fans are going to be live virtually in the comfort of their own home. Now, we've seen NBA have done it. NBA has done it, but NBA fans are a lot different from WWE fans. You know, with NBA, I mean, you can show up at NBA and you can wear, you know, you can wear an NFL jersey, but a lot of people wear NBA jerseys, but you could wear like a Chicago Bulls jersey if you want. Don't know why you would wear a Chicago Bulls jersey to, you know, to a Lakers game, for example. But I know the way WWE works, they don't want people to show up on screen wearing AEW gear or holding up a sign when they know the camera is on them of something AEW. And of course, you know how infamous fans could be with their signs, middle fingers, you know, dicks on screen, flashing. Like, who knows the level of what's going to happen. Now, I'm pretty sure there'll be a 10-second delay of what's going on with the fans. But I had mentioned it. I was talking with Clark Street podcast and Half K podcast as well. We were talking about it of who would go for it. And I mentioned, I was like, well, I don't know the criteria, but if they do look at social media, then a lot of people would probably be out, including yours truly, because I do talk about AEW. I talk about Impact. I talk about, more than just WWE. So they probably may be going for people who are strictly WWE fans so that they don't have to worry about someone just showing up with AEW gear. Or another theory is that they will go after their infamous fans, Frank the Clown, the guy, the Undertaker guy, the Brock Lesnar guy, stuff like that. Another piece of news, Peyton Royce had participated in a bodybuilding competition, and she actually won 2 trophies. She won 2nd and 3rd place. She posted a lot of the photos on, I believe it's on her Instagram, and she had the support from Sean Spears and from Billie Kay. So congratulations to her. Another piece of news that has come out, Rusev was on Ryback's podcast, and he spoke out about Vince McMahon's reaction to the Rusev Day. So I'm sure people have started to hear about the fact that Vince McMahon, of course, no surprise to us, Vince McMahon didn't really like Rusev Day. It was something that organically came about. We know how Vince McMahon is not a fan of people who get themselves over. Like Zack Ryder. Who else? I mean, there's countless people who have gotten themselves over, and it quickly dies down. So Rusev Day has spoke about Vince McMahon's reactions to Rusev spoke about Vince McMahon's reactions to Rusev Day. So Vince McMahon felt as though, he was hearing a lot of the chants of Rusev Day, and he felt as though that the fans were chanting Rusev Day was because the fans were mocking Rusev. That was the first time he mentioned it. Rusev was shocked about it. Aiden English said his jaw hit the floor when he heard about it. And then, of course, it happened again. The fans were chanting Rusev Day, and Rusev had talked about it again and even mentioned that, his shirts are selling out. If his shirts are selling out, if the fans are mocking him, why are the shirts selling out? To which Vince McMahon has said pretty much, the shirts are selling out. We must not have made enough shirts. Basically saying, we made 10 of your shirts, so that's why it's sold out. And it's just very frustrating when, someone puts their ego above profiting their business. You could easily make a profit off of, people who have put themselves over. Rusev is selling out of his shirts. You can make a lot more money by putting more shirts in stock, letting him have his moment to shine, and, it'll eventually die out. Sorry to say. Look what happened with Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston was the hottest thing, going into WrestleMania, and then it eventually died out. With Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan was the biggest babyface ever, and then he turned himself heel and became one of the best heels, to the point as though that people had, really did not like him for his promos. So it's just crazy that, we have wrestlers of fans who are putting wrestlers over, and Vince McMahon's like, oh, you don't really fit our agenda, so we're not going to put our all into you. So going over things that happened this past week, I'm actually watching Raw right now. This is one of the Raw Undergrounds that is going on with these crazy camera cuts. So actually the camera cuts aren't as bad with this one. But I don't get why we have this Raw Underground. I don't know what is the long-term gain for this? What is the goal of it all? Also, what happened, we found out that Zelina actually poisoned Montez. Don't know where Bianca Belair is because she didn't show up once it was revealed that she was poisoned. Also, a weird thing that happened. There was Mickie James going against Natalya, and there go Nia Jax, which makes sense. We had Mickie James going against Natalya, and they were fighting, and then out comes Seth Rollins and Murphy, and they start talking to Samoa Joe. Which, women's revolution, we get something that happens in the middle of their match. And it was a really good segment, I have to say, between Seth Rollins and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe leaning back in his chair and getting all comfortable. And it pretty much was like, touch me if you want to. I dare you to. And Seth Rollins, of course, sitting there talking crap to him. But yeah, it's just... Raw is somewhat good so far. We didn't really see a turn from Cedric Alexander, but I feel like it's a slow build to it, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with slow builds. Going into AEW, we had FTR attacking the Rock and Roll Express. Mike Chioda is with AEW as well. And then MJF is definitely cutting this politician. He is campaigning to be the AEW champion, and I really hope he wins. I'm sorry to say. I like Jon Moxley. I'm very happy for him, but I don't know. So it's a point that Clark Street Wrestling Podcast I brought up. Definitely check out their latest episode if you haven't done so. Is the fact that we're in this unique situation where a lot of, wrestlers are having to deal with performing without the fans. And they were talking about if, the lack of fans have hurt Jon Moxley, which I kind of agree with. When Jon Moxley debuted, the crowds were hot. Everyone was Jon Moxley fan. And now that the crowds are gone, I don't know, it feels like Jon Moxley always fed off of the crowd. And with the crowd no longer being there, I don't know, he comes across as a bit of stale. I have to say, a bit of stale. I don't know, it's just it's missing something. And I think it's because he feeds off of the crowd. He's one of those people that feeds off the crowd. Another person I mentioned was Drew McIntyre. When he was going after the title leading up to WrestleMania, he was red hot with the crowd. And definitely with his promos, he would feed off the crowd. He would count down from 3 for the Claymore kick. And, it was just a lot. And, we had a discussion and people were making good points about how he's definitely still good in the ring. It's just maybe the promos that are lacking, which I agree. I also felt as though that maybe he was suffering from not having very entertaining feuds. Him versus Dolph Ziggler was fine. Was a bit of, I don't know, it wasn't as exciting as his feud with Brock Lesnar, of course. And the feud with Randy Orton is starting to pick up steam as well. Going into NXT, we had, Keith Lee, who came out with a contract in hand to challenge Karrion Kross at NXT TakeOver 30. Scarlett had brought the contract over to Karrion Kross. Karrion signs it, and she kisses it, and then slides it back into the ring. Keith Lee goes to open it, and there was a bit of a fireball that pops out. Kind of definitely gives me a bit of Undertaker, Kane-esque type of mind games. But I don't know, the fireball went out and then Keith Lee was blinded and he had to be taken to an ambulance. They even had a picture-in-picture during the match afterwards where they were showing Keith Lee with a towel to his face, blindly, walking outside and being helped out to get medical attention. And there were people who felt as though it was a bit silly and things like that, which I kind of agree. NXT really isn't NXT really don't use a lot of like special effects, quote unquote, to for their storylines, especially something as serious as, you know, with Keith Lee going against Karrion Kross. So I definitely see both sides of it. I appreciate it that they are doing something new, especially with how unique Karrion Kross persona is, especially with him and Scarlett. They're definitely using a lot of, I don't know, I wouldn't say special effects, but they're definitely using some type of quote unquote storyline magic with their personas. We had Rhea Ripley versus Mercedes Martinez. I still don't get the whole Robert Stone brand with her and Robert Stone brand. It was a tag team match with Aaliyah in it, and Aaliyah definitely, I don't know. I think maybe she just needs time, or she needs more confidence, or she needs more practice. But when she was in the ring, the match kind of slowed down a bit, and it wasn't as exciting as it was when Mercedes was in there. They picked up the win, of course, and it's going to continue along with the feud between Rhea Ripley and Martinez. Now, we also got a triple threat match in the main event of Cameron Grimes, Kushida, and a mystery person who ended up being Velveteen Dream. Now, I'm sure there were a lot of people who were along with me who said, what? And I know that WWE or Velveteen Dream really didn't say anything about the accusations against him, which is disgusting, especially if they are true. And so I assumed that WWE did their own investigation, found out that either it wasn't enough evidence or that they found enough evidence and Velveteen Dream is innocent. Until the person who had accused Velveteen Dream of, interacting with minor girls said no one ever reached out to him. It seems like WWE didn't do any type of investigation or anything. So I don't know what to think. But Velveteen Dream came back. First, I'm still watching Raw, so I'm seeing Bianca Belair finally comes out and attacks Zelina, who should be attacked because she was wearing that ridiculous cape. But anyway, yeah, Velveteen Dream comes back into this triple threat match, which will pick the last person, one of the last people who will be in the ladder match for the North American Championship. And surprisingly, Cameron Grimes wins. I would have thought it would have been Kushida. I felt as though he would definitely have added a lot more excitement to the match. I'm not really the biggest Cameron Grimes fan, I have to say. I don't know. I feel like it's something missing with him. So, but I'll take it. We'll see how this ladder match will go. Maybe these people are being picked because they can actually put something together with this ladder match to give them time to shine, maybe. So I'm not going to argue with it. I'm just going to let it ride out. Going into SmackDown last week, it was announced that we are going to have a hair versus hair match with Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, which I rolled my eyes because as soon as I saw Sonya Deville cutting Mandy's hair, I figured that they were going to do some type of hair versus hair match, which I rolled my eyes to. And I get, they mentioned how there hasn't been a hair versus hair match in so long. But my thing is, they could have if they wanted to show how intense the rivalry is, they could have definitely did some type of no holds bar match. I mean, because this is SummerSlam. This is one of the big four. We definitely got to step it up, even though there's no fans there. Definitely could have stepped it up. Could have did some type of no holds barred match, some type of hardcore match, falls count anywhere type of thing, where it would definitely do a step up. But now we're going to have this stupid hair versus hair match, and one of them is going to cut their hair short. More likely it's going to be Sonya Deville. She probably wants to cut her hair short, and this is the way that WWE will allow her, or something stupid like that. Another interesting thing that happened, first of all, a lot of TNA love going on SmackDown. We had AJ Styles, who was reunited with Abyss, or aka Joseph Park, for a segment. AJ Styles was back there with him, discussing, statistics of people who should be number one contenders for his Intercontinental Championship, which I keep forgetting that he has. He went out to the ring with Abyss, or Joseph Park, and he had, I forgot the name of what his system is, but the acronym for it is PISS, which is piss, because haha, middle school comedy. So out comes Jeff Hardy, and it took me a moment to realize that we never got AJ Styles versus Jeff Hardy, because Jeff Hardy mentions it. I believe it's Jeff Hardy mentions it, or AJ Styles. One of them mentioned that it's the first time they're going against each other, and I had to really stop and think and look it up on Google and all this stuff. And it is the first time that they're going against each other in WWE. They went against each other a couple of times in TNA. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Let's have this happen. And then come to find out, the match will take place on SmackDown, the go-home show for Summerslam, which don't make any sense to me. They could definitely build up this feud, and they definitely could have had it either on SummerSlam, or the fact that we're having a pay-per-view exactly 1 week after SummerSlam could have definitely had this match at Payback. Them two going against each other for the first time ever, and AJ Styles versus Jeff Hardy going against each other, should definitely be a pay-per-view match. And I guarantee they're going to throw something on at SummerSlam that could definitely be done at SmackDown. No. Hopefully they'll change their mind and decide to make it a pay-per-view match. Don't make it a kickoff. Don't put it on the kickoff show. Put it on the main card of either SummerSlam, and I'll even take for them to hold off into Payback. Another interesting thing, a very good storyline so far, I have to say, is Alexa Bliss and The Fiend and Braun Strowman. Of course, Braun Strowman is losing his mind because, once you interact with The Fiend, it changes you. Look at Finn Balor. Look at Daniel Bryan. Look at Braun Strowman now. And now with Alexa Bliss. So the first week, The Fiend attacked Alexa Bliss. The second week, she caresses his face. And so now we're getting Braun Strowman, who is out of his mind. He is now bald. And he told The Fiend, I don't care about Alexa Bliss, which I'm glad that they showed the recap, because people probably, if you didn't watch the Mixed Match Challenge, you probably didn't understand the connection of Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman, and why that was a bit of a devastating thing to hear. So, of course, they went through it. Alexa Bliss got sat down for interview, and she was asked about her interaction with The Fiend, and she said it was scary, but I think she said intriguing, or she actually says captivating. So, of course, Braun Strowman comes out to call out The Fiend. Alexa Bliss comes out. Braun Strowman didn't look at her. He's sitting there talking to the wall, basically. And he mentioned how, whenever you interact with The Fiend, he changes you. Braun Strowman decides to use Alexa Bliss as a bit of bait. He goes and, of course, she tries to slap some sense into him, quote unquote. And she was slapping him pretty hard. That, for her to be so small, she got a lot of power behind them slaps. And she starts slapping Braun to try to snap him out of it. And he grabs her and he goes to slam her, holds her up, starts calling out The Fiend. The Fiend does the thing where he shuts down the lights. And right before the final lights come out, you see Braun Strowman jolts her into the air. Of course, we don't hear how, if she took the bump or if she just landed on her feet or something like that. But you see the Fiend comes out and he's standing behind Alexa Bliss. Braun Strowman disappears using his own type of magic, I guess. And he's on the screen with that weird laugh that he's doing. That is a lot more creepy than scary. And I don't mean creepy in like a good sense of way. He definitely needs to work on how he's doing his laughter. So very intriguing story of what's going to happen with Alexa Bliss. Is she going to eventually turn to Sister Abigail? Is she going to turn into Abby the Witch? Is she going to become part of the Firefly Funhouse? What's going to happen? But I am intrigued by the long-term play of Alexa Bliss. And Randy Orton just did an RKO on Shawn Michaels, and there's the punt. I can't get over Shawn Michaels with the bald spot. But, and there goes Drew McIntyre. But, very intriguing story. And I'm very intrigued of the long-term. I'm hoping that the Fiend wins the title. Take the title off of Braun Strowman, have Braun Strowman get even crazier, and whatever happens with how Braun Strowman, maybe he gets clean shaven or something like that. Who knows? But definitely an intriguing week of wrestling so far. I didn't get a chance to watch Impact. One thing I'm upset about, and a lot of other people were upset as well, is the fact that AEW is putting this women's tag team tournament on YouTube on a Monday. Instead of, I don't know, taking away some of these they had a tag team appreciation night, I guess, just so they could have the Rock and Roll Express and 2 members of the 4 Horsemen on there, which I get, AEW is really good at their tag team division. A tag team appreciation night definitely isn't needed in AEW because you don't need any more attention really to your tag team division doesn't need any more specialized attention because it's such a strong division. A women's appreciation night would have been good. Having that tournament, have just one match a week. I don't know if they were trying to push it all together for All Out, but they definitely could have started this tournament a lot earlier this year and had at least one match or 2 tops on AEW Dynamite, just so we can get to know the women, see their dynamic together, especially for the fact that you're trying to promote Little Nightmares or whatever, not Little Nightmares, Nightmare Sisters. I'm thinking of the video game Little Nightmares. Nightmare Sisters, whatever they're called, that you're trying to have them push, or, or Anna Jay. But anyway, they should have put that on AEW Dynamite. Why put it on YouTube for free on a night that people aren't going to watch, aren't going to tune into it? I didn't even get to see, what the numbers were pulling for this tournament, but definitely a waste. Them putting this tournament on YouTube on an off night definitely shows how much they're putting into this women's division. It's frustrating because another thing they're also promoting, which, at first I wasn't feeling it. They have this AEW Heels community that they have been promoting, and it's a community for wrestling fans so that, they all get together and talk about wrestling, and it's a safe place for women, which technically you can do with a Facebook group, to be honest with you. Of course, you can't really do it too much on Twitter, but you can definitely do it with a Facebook group. And then I found out that they charge $50, and I'm like, $50 for what? And so, $50 for what? But what you get for it is very intriguing. You get virtual meet and greets, you get, Q&A sessions. So it's, merchandise, I believe, as well. So you actually get a lot of stuff for the money. So I'm not really too mad at that, but I don't know about paying $50, however, even though you get a lot of good stuff with that meet and greet and everything, but I don't know about paying $50 if you're not really putting a lot into your women's division. That you had, first of all, Mercedes Martinez, and you let her walk because you're not putting a lot into your division. Sorry to say. So going into, I actually have pulled up here the numbers for this Deadly Draw tournament. So for okay, not too bad. So just to put into context, AEW YouTube channel has 1.5 million subscribers. Night 1 of the this Deadly Draw tournament did 595,000 subscribers, which is about a third of their subscribers. Night 2, which was last week, 299,000 subscribers. And then, this coming out 4 hours ago of this recording, it only drew in 46,000 subscribers. So let's compare that to, for example, but I can definitely, if I pull up, like, for example, AEW Dynamite highlights here, 5 days ago, AEW Dynamite of MJF promo, 404,000 views, which was pretty good, I have to say, for the first night the first night of the women's tournament, defeat that. Actually, I may correct myself because as far as the views on their videos for like AEW Dynamite highlights and also with Dark and things like that, they're not pulling in that much viewership. So I have to say the views for the women's tournament is a lot better than I thought. But they definitely can get a lot more, or actually show. My biggest gripe, because I'm starting to sound like I'm pulling for straws. My biggest gripe that you have a chance to highlight your women's division as far as putting them on AEW Dynamite, especially for the fact that they had pulled over almost 1 million, which is the best they've done during the pandemic, and you had a chance to put, a good women's match on there, and you decided to do it on YouTube. Now, granted, their numbers are a lot better than other videos that they have put on their YouTube channel, but still, you're showing that you want to give a lot more attention to your women's division by putting this tournament on AEW Dynamite. And I don't know, I didn't really look into it if they're going to have the finals to happen on All Out that's coming in September, or if this is going to end on YouTube as well. Not 100% sure. Going into, we are 1 week away from Summerslam, and I have continued to do my reviews. Now, I don't know where I kept my list of the suggestions that was given to me as far as what to watch. Pretty sure I remembered who had suggested what. So the first match that was suggested to me, I believe it was at Headliner 5. It was John Cena versus Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam 2013. Now, the lead up to this was getting in right before the rise of the Yes Movement. The Yes Movement was actually going due to Daniel Bryan's starting popularity. They started with the whole Daniel Bryan is a B+ player. No, actually, they didn't really start with that yet. Because in this, Triple H was actually the special referee, and he wasn't technically the heel just yet. I think this was when Vince McMahon was saying the B+ player. And Triple H, I believe, was either neutral or he was on Daniel Bryan's side. John Cena decided to name his challenger for the WWE Championship, I think it was, at Summerslam, and he picked out Daniel Bryan. And at this time, Daniel Bryan had the full-on beard, and he had a shirt that said "The beard is here" to kind of mock John Cena. Daniel Bryan had cut a very passionate promo, saying that John Cena is an entertainer, he's not a wrestler, and that he disrespects, everything. He is everything that is wrong with wrestling. Of course, John Cena is able to, polarize the fans and bring out the dual chants of "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks." John Cena had a shirt that says "My time, the champ is here," with the arrow pointing at the belt, and the back of the shirt said "My time is now," where Daniel Bryan had a shirt that said "The beard is here," and the arrow was pointing up. So going into the match, I would have to say this is one of John Cena's better matches. Now, of course, John Cena has suffered an injury to his elbow. I forgot the exact injury, but he had like a ball of like fluid, I believe it was, sticking out of his elbow that was pretty painful. He had to keep his arm in a sleeve, basically, so that it wouldn't get infected or anything like that. Not infected, but so that it wouldn't cause more damage to it. The match begins, of course, Daniel Bryan being very technical. Started off, with a lot of holds and things like that. John Cena being the entertainer, but Daniel Bryan took John Cena to school. And I remember seeing this match and was shocked at how John Cena was able to kind of keep up with Daniel Bryan. Now, of course, early on in the match, Daniel Bryan got, I think it was a kick or something like that he got on John Cena, and you see John Cena starts to get a black eye on his face. The match between John Cena and Daniel Bryan lasted for almost 27 minutes. And I have to say, definitely because of the fans that were in attendance, this took place in LA, and the fans were pretty good during this match. It did get a bit of, it did slow down for certain parts of the match, but all in all, I have to say this was a pretty good storyline match. Was it the best technical, like Bret Hart, Owen Hart type of match? No. Because, but it was good storyline. That was the thing. It was a storyline of Daniel Bryan, the B+ player and all that stuff, going against the big and mighty John Cena. It was the entertainer versus the wrestler. It was the underdog versus the, David versus Goliath type of situation. So storyline wise, it was a very good match. And they had almost 27 minutes to definitely duke it out. In the end, Daniel Bryan hit a running knee, and he actually defeated John Cena, which everyone was so excited. Daniel Bryan finally wins a championship, the WWE Championship. Confetti's raining down, Triple H grabbing Daniel Bryan's hand, raising his hand in the air, Daniel Bryan going around doing the yes chants. And then Randy Orton's music hit, because at this time, Randy Orton was Mr. Money in the Bank. Daniel Bryan, looks like he's ready for whatever is coming his way. Randy Orton lifts up the briefcase, goes to turn around and walk away. And then he turns back around, he stares at the ring, and Triple H goes, turns Daniel Bryan around, puts him in a pedigree, pins him. Randy Orton covers. Daniel Bryan, 1, 2, 3. Daniel Bryan is no longer WWE Championship, and we have the turn of Triple H. Ironically, the fans actually cheered for Randy Orton winning the title. Randy Orton was still pretty popular back then, even though we had a lot of Randy Orton in the title matches. This kind of twist to the storyline, it added a lot more excitement. It added that, we got a little taste. Daniel Bryan and the fans got a little taste of him being a champion, and it was turned upside down. it was meant for people to get upset, but ironically, the fans in the arena had popped for when Randy Orton won. The aftermath of this, of course, leads to Triple H and the Authority, quote unquote, against Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan continuously being called a B+ player, and the Yes movement explodes from there. I would have to say this was one of the best storylines in a while for WWE, the Yes movement. Because it was so captivating, it was so organic, the fans were so emotionally involved with this storyline. Something that really cannot be replicated, I have to say. Because storylines like this, it has to be organic, or else it just doesn't work. The other match that I reviewed, this came from Julian from the Wrestling Court podcast. It was the Ultimate Warrior versus Rick Rude in a cage match for SummerSlam 1990. Which, ironically, I never watched this match before. I did hear that Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior went against each other a lot around this time. They were feuding. Their feud started at the 1989 Royal Rumble. They did a pose down where they were showing off their muscles. Of course, Rick Rude being Rick Rude attacked the Ultimate Warrior. They faced each other at WrestleMania 5 for the Intercontinental Championship, which Rick Rude won. But then they fought each other at SummerSlam 1989, where Warrior got his title back. Warrior then defeated Hulk Hogan for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 6, and he was forced to give up the Intercontinental Championship. And Rick Rude was named the top challenger for SummerSlam, and they decided to have the match in a steel cage. So, of course, Ultimate Warrior. So, on paper, when I found out that it was a steel cage match, I didn't know really what to think, because Ultimate Warrior is definitely one of those wrestlers that he has he has this pacing where he is like fire, speed 100, and then he slows it down, and then comes back again, and then slows it down a little bit. So I wasn't really sure how that would translate with the cage, because with a cage match, it kind of slows things down a bit. It's not like fast, because then you have to slow down for the escapes of, someone climbing up to try to escape, or someone going to the door to escape. Very similar to Bret Hart and Owen Hart, how even though the cage match was good, even though, they're both technical wrestlers, especially for their match that they had at WrestleMania before that SummerSlam, with that cage match, definitely slowed down a lot of the match. I mean, the match could have been condensed down a lot with that match between Bret Hart and Owen Hart, and that's because they kept doing a lot of escaping in the cage match. With the Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude, ironically, this match was only for 10 minutes long. So just as soon as it really got started was when it really, it was pretty much over. Rick Rude, of course, had Bobby Heenan by his side. Bobby Heenan at his side. I'm sorry, it's 11 o'clock and I'm starting to get tired. By his side as his manager. Rick Rude, of course, with his tights. He had the Ultimate Warrior drawn on his tights. And Ultimate Warrior came out, he had the early advantage, going. He went for a big move. I think he tried to do a splash or something like that, and he missed it. Then we started to get a lot of near escapes. Rick Rude climbing the cage and then trying to escape through the door, things like that. There was a spot where Rick Rude was trying to escape through the door. Bobby Heenan was trying to pull him out, and then Ultimate Warrior does, of course, it's the spot where he grabs the tights and then the ass comes out and the women go crazy type of situation. There was also I think it was Rick Rude who did a spot from the top of the cage. But it wasn't like a crossbody or anything. I think it was just a simple, downward punch on the head. That's why I think it was that. Then, of course, Warrior starts to, get into the groove. Started doing his, I wouldn't even say, it's very, when I see it now, the Ultimate Warrior, when Ultimate Warrior does this, when he does the clotheslines back and forth, stuff like that, it definitely kind of gives me that 5 moves of doom type of situation, because the Ultimate Warrior does the same cluster of moves, just very similar fashion of John Cena. But a lot of people kind of do that too. We could also look at The Rock. When The Rock started doing his sets of moves that leads up to the people's elbow as well. Ultimate Warrior then does a gorilla press, and then he climbs over the cage, and then he drops down to retain his title. After that, of course, this was in 1990, so a lot of falling out with wrestlers slowly started to happen. Ultimate Warrior eventually leaves WWF 92, early 93, I believe it is. After this match between Rick Rude and Ultimate Warrior, Rude actually leaves WWF due to issues with money. Of course, Rick Rude will eventually return to the WWE later on down the line, of course, and then of course especially when he is connected with, he comes back 7 years later to be reunited, and he is quote unquote the bodyguard of DX. Between that time, he goes off to WCW, a lot of different promotions, a lot of the different promotions. He even goes over to Japan as well. Did a little bit of ECW before going back to WWF. And of course, he goes back to WCW. And then 2 years later, not too long after that was when he unfortunately had passed away from heart failure. So I have 2 more matches left to review, but I don't know what I did with the stupid paper of what I wrote down as the suggestions. And they were later Summerslam matches. And damn it, I wish I remember off the top of my head. I think one of them was definitely CM Punk versus John Cena. But I forgot what the other one was. So I'm going to tear up my desk looking for this paper of the matches that I looked down. But unfortunately, if there is a SummerSlam match that you want me to review, it is too late, because the next episode that's coming out will come out before TakeOver and SummerSlam with my predictions of what's going to happen. Apparently, SummerSlam is being called the show that you didn't see coming or something like that, which I don't know what's up with these slogans. It's like you didn't see it coming or something like that. I don't know why you're going to put a slogan for SummerSlam. SummerSlam is one of the big 4 pay-per-view events that comes every year. The hottest event of the summer. So, we see it coming. Some of these things are happening at SummerSlam we don't really care to see coming, or we don't want to see coming. But I don't know. I don't know why we're doing these slogans. This isn't a sitcom or anything. Sorry to say, Vince, but I hope SummerSlam is good this year. I hope that ladder match for the North American Championship is going to be good. I'm pretty sure it's going to be good, but I'm hoping that it's good because they chose the right people. Especially with some of these people who they have chosen to be in the ladder match, that I feel as though there could have been better options, but prove me wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. But yeah, we also are getting this whole Retribution thing. I'm going to let it play out, even though the people who are in I cannot talk tonight. Retribution are very small. They don't seem intimidating, except for the fact they walk around with bats in their hands. People are, of course, going off saying it could be CM Punk or stuff like that, and making suggestions of who it would be. I'm going to let it play out before I start hating on it, but I don't get why, if they're anti-WWE, why are they spray painting a W instead of R? Maybe I missed the memo of what the W is, or are they doing the W with the no sign or something like that? I'm not sure. Very interested to see how this plays out, who is the leader, even though they're pretty much wearing the same stuff as Tozawa's ninjas, so I don't get it. But they don't really seem intimidating at all. And if WWE has this whole hiring the fake security guards for them, why are we constantly replaying what they have done? Why are we replaying what they have done to destroy the company? I'm going to let it play out and we'll see how it goes down. And I'm hoping that it's not going to lead to a stupid ending, which I am starting to mentally prepare for. So that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Shout out to Julianne and Rob Bass from the Wrestling Court podcast and AlternativeMinds.com. Keita and Jay from Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next podcast, which is featured on the Keita and Jay Show. Dando and Larry from Half K Podcast, and Devin and Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling. Be sure to check out all those podcasts. We're in whatever episodes that they drop, of course. Coming up this week, I'm going to be doing my predictions for NXT TakeOver 30 or XXX, whichever way you want to take that. I don't know why they just did the XXX against the Roman numerals, but they could have definitely called it something different. SummerSlam predictions, of course, and then next week, I'm definitely going to put out an episode of a review. I'm definitely going to do my best because this week is going to be another long weekend for me. I'm probably going to end up doing another 12-hour shift and then another shift on Saturday and having to come back on Monday with a longer shift. So I don't think I have myself working early on Monday. I hope I was a smart enough cookie that I don't have myself working early on Monday because of SummerSlam. But thank you so much. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Jaydee Talks. That's Jayde Talks. Follow the podcast as well. Leave a review. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your predictions for SummerSlam and what's going on this week. And until next time, guys, peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at WrestleBread.com and subscribe to WrestleBread on YouTube for more breaking news and JD's opinions.